What I'm about to tell you happened to me just 6 months ago. It's a story about betrayal, corporate greed, and how sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people destroy themselves. My name is Mark Teller. I'm 27 years old, and until recently, I was the lead AI engineer at a company called Neural Sync Technologies. The pink slip came on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because I was debugging our flagship recommendation algorithm when Rebecca Chen, our new VP of Operations, knocked on my cubicle wall. "Mark, we need to talk," she said, her voice carrying that artificial sympathy they teach in management seminars. I followed her to the conference room, already knowing what was coming. The writing had been on the wall for weeks. Ever since VentureMax Capital bought us out 8 months ago, things had been different. "We're restructuring the engineering team," Rebecca began, sliding a manila envelope across the polished table. "Your position is being eliminated effective immediately." I opened the envelope. Severance package, NDA, the usual corporate goodbye. What wasn't usual was the reason listed. Redundancy due to technological advancement. Redundancy, I asked, though I kept my voice steady. The new AI consultants from Silicon Valley have developed more efficient systems. We're moving in a different direction. I almost laughed. Those consultants had been there for 3 weeks, asking basic questions about neural networks that any computer science freshman could answer. They'd spent more time in meetings than actually looking at our code. "I understand," I said, signing the papers. No point in arguing. I'd seen this playbook before. What Rebecca didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the core algorithm powering NeuralSync's entire platform wasn't actually theirs. It was mine. Let me back up. 3 years ago, I was a broke graduate student at MIT, living on ramen and caffeine, working on my master's thesis about predictive AI models. I developed something special, an algorithm that could learn user preferences with 97% accuracy using minimal data points. Most systems needed thousands of interactions to get decent results. Mine needed 12. I called it PRISM, Predictive Recognition and Intelligent Synthesis Model. The algorithm was elegant, revolutionary even. I'd spent 18 months perfecting it, testing it on everything from music recommendations to shopping habits. It worked beautifully. When I graduated, I had 2 choices: license PRISM to a major tech company for a fortune, or find a startup that would let me develop it further. I chose the startup route. I was young, idealistic, and believed in building something meaningful. That's when I met Dr. Sarah Martinez, NeuralSync's founder. She was brilliant, passionate about ethical AI, and she promised me creative freedom. More importantly, she understood what PRISM could become. "We're not just building another recommendation engine," she told me during our first meeting. "We're creating something that truly understands human behavior." I joined NeuralSync as their 3rd employee. Sarah gave me a generous equity stake and complete autonomy over the AI development. In return, I licensed PRISM to the company under a specific agreement. They could use it exclusively as long as I remained employed and maintained creative control over its development. The key word there is licensed. I never transferred ownership. PRISM remained my intellectual property, protected by copyright and patent applications I'd filed during grad school. For 2 years, everything was perfect. We grew from 3 employees to 50. Our platform powered recommendation systems for major e-commerce sites, streaming services, and social media platforms. Fortune 500 companies were lining up to integrate our technology. Then the acquisition happened. VentureMax Capital specialized in buying promising tech startups, optimizing them, and flipping them for massive profits. Their optimization usually meant cutting costs, replacing founders, and squeezing every dollar from the existing technology before moving on. Sarah fought the acquisition, but the board voted her out. They brought in Marcus Webb as the new CEO, a corporate shark who'd gutted 3 companies in 5 years. Rebecca Chen came with him as VP of Operations. "We're going to scale this company properly," Marcus announced during his first all-hands meeting. "No more academic approaches. We're here to make money." The changes started immediately. Sarah's ethical AI guidelines were scrapped. Our diverse hiring practices were replaced with performance-based recruitment, code for hiring only people who looked like Marcus. The open-source contributions Sarah had championed were discontinued. But the real alarm bells went off when Marcus brought in the consultants. Dataflow Solutions was one of those boutique firms that charged astronomical fees to tell companies what they wanted to hear. Their team of 3 senior consultants had impressive LinkedIn profiles, but questionable technical skills. "We're conducting a comprehensive audit of your technology stack," their lead consultant, James Morrison, announced. "Everything needs to be documented, analyzed, and optimized for maximum efficiency." I watched them fumble through our code base for weeks. They'd ask me to explain basic concepts, then nod knowingly while taking notes. They kept talking about modernizing legacy systems and implementing industry best practices. The writing was on the wall. They were preparing to replace me. The night before my termination, I did something I'd never done before. I accessed NeuralSync's systems from my personal laptop at home. Not to steal anything or sabotage the company, but to document exactly what I'd contributed over the past 3 years. What I found was interesting. Every major algorithm improvement, every performance optimization, every breakthrough that had made NeuralSync successful, it all traced back to Prism. The consultants had been calling it legacy code, but legacy code doesn't generate $50 million in annual revenue. I took screenshots of the Git commits, downloaded my personal documentation, and made sure I had copies of all the patents and copyright registrations. Then I did something that would prove crucial later. I checked the original licensing agreement I'd signed with Sarah. The contract was crystal clear. NeuralSync had an exclusive license to use Prism as long as I remained employed and retained creative control. If either condition was violated, the license would be revoked after a 30-day notice period. They'd just violated both conditions. After signing my termination papers, I had 1 hour to clear out my desk. I took my personal items, a coffee mug, some books, and a small cactus my girlfriend had given me for luck. Everything else belonged to the company. On my way out, I stopped by Tom's desk. Tom Rodriguez was our senior back-end engineer, one of the few people who truly understood how Prism worked. He'd been with the company almost as long as I had. "They're making a mistake," he said quietly, not looking up from his monitor. "Maybe," I replied. "Take care of yourself, Tom." I drove home through Boston traffic, my mind strangely calm. My girlfriend Emma was waiting with takeout from our favorite Thai place. "How do you feel?" she asked. Honestly, relieved. And I was. For the first time in months, I wasn't worried about what Marcus and his consultants were going to break next. That evening, I drafted a formal notice to NeuralSync's legal department. According to the licensing agreement, I was required to provide 30 days' notice before revoking the license. The letter was professional, citing the specific contract clauses and giving them until April 15th to respond. I sent it certified mail the next morning. The first week after my termination was blissful. I slept in, read books, and started working on a new project, an open-source version of Prism that I'd been thinking about for months. Nothing that would compete with NeuralSync, just a stripped-down educational tool for developers. Emma suggested I take a real vacation. "When's the last time you went somewhere without your laptop?" she asked. She was right. I booked a long weekend in Vermont, found a cabin with no Wi-Fi, and spent 3 days hiking and reading. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about algorithms or code optimization. On Sunday night, I turned my phone back on. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages. My voicemail was full. The panic had started on Friday afternoon. According to the messages, NeuralSync's entire platform had crashed at 3:47 p.m. Not a simple server error or database hiccup, a complete system failure that took down every client integration. Tom's messages painted the picture. The consultants tried to optimize the core algorithm, something about reducing computational complexity. The whole thing collapsed. Marcus is freaking out. 3 major clients are threatening to cancel their contracts. Rebecca's calling emergency meetings. They want to know if you sabotaged something before leaving. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The timing was perfect, or perfectly terrible depending on your perspective. NeuralSync had a major presentation scheduled for Monday morning with their biggest potential client, a streaming service with 200 million subscribers. The deal was worth $30 million annually. I ignored the calls and messages. Let them figure it out. Monday morning brought a new wave of contact attempts. Marcus himself called 6 times before 9 a.m. Rebecca sent increasingly desperate emails. The consultants from Dataflow Solutions had apparently worked through the weekend trying to fix what they'd broken. By Tuesday, the story had leaked to TechCrunch. NeuralSync's platform crashes, major clients flee. The article mentioned system failures, canceled contracts, and rumors of internal sabotage. That's when Marcus played his final card. "Mark, this is Marcus Webb. I know you're getting these messages. We need to talk. The board is prepared to offer you a substantial consulting contract to help resolve this situation. Let's put the past behind us and work together." I deleted the message without responding. Wednesday brought a different approach. NeuralSync's lawyers sent a cease and desist letter, claiming I'd violated my employment agreement and stolen proprietary technology. They threatened criminal charges and civil litigation. I forwarded the letter to my attorney, Jessica Park, who'd handled my original patent filings. She called me an hour later, laughing. "They have no case," she said. "Your licensing agreement is airtight. They terminated you, which voided their right to use Prism. If anything, they're the ones in breach of contract." What about their threats? Empty. They're panicking and hoping you'll fold. Want me to respond? Not yet. Let's see how desperate they get. By Thursday, NeuralSync's stock had dropped 35%. Tech blogs were calling it the fastest collapse of a unicorn startup in recent memory. The streaming service deal was officially dead, and 2 other major clients had terminated their contracts. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. "Mark? This is Dr. Sarah Martinez." I hadn't talked to Sarah since her forced departure 6 months ago. She'd been the heart of NeuralSync, and losing her had been like watching someone tear the soul out of a company. "I heard about what happened," she said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. How are you?" "Honestly, I'm watching everything we built crumble and I don't know how to feel about it." We talked for an hour. Sarah had been working on a new venture, a nonprofit focused on ethical AI development. She'd been following NeuralSync's struggles with a mixture of sadness and vindication. "Marcus got exactly what he deserved," she said. "But all those employees, all the work we did together." "I know. I've been thinking about that too." "What are you going to do?" I'd been wrestling with that question for days. I could let Neural Sync destroy itself completely, or I could offer them a lifeline. The first option felt like justice. The second felt like mercy. I'm not sure yet, I admitted. Friday morning brought the call I'd been expecting. Marcus, sounding exhausted and defeated. Mark, please. I know we made mistakes, but we can fix this. Name your price. It's not about money, Marcus. Then what? What do you want? I thought about Sarah's nonprofit, about the ethical AI guidelines that had been scrapped, about the open source contributions that had been canceled. I want you to resign, I said. You and Rebecca both. Sarah Martinez comes back as CEO with full authority to restructure the company. Tom Rodriguez gets promoted to VP of Engineering. And Neural Sync commits to Sarah's original ethical AI framework. Silence. That's not possible. The board would never approve. Then enjoy bankruptcy, I said, and hung up. The next call came from Neural Sync's board chairman, David Kim. He'd been one of the original investors, back when the company was just Sarah and a dream. Mark, we need to talk. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop in Cambridge. David looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. The board voted last night, he said. Marcus and Rebecca are out. We're prepared to offer Sarah her old position back, with the terms you specified. And the ethical AI framework? Reinstated, along with the open source program and the diversity initiatives. I studied his face. David had always been one of the good ones, pushed around by the other board members but genuinely caring about the company's mission. What about the consultants? Already gone. Dataflow Solutions' contract was terminated yesterday. I nodded. I'll need all of this in writing, and I want a formal apology to the employees who were pushed out during the restructuring. Done. And one more thing. I want equity. Not just a licensing deal, but actual ownership. If I'm going to help rebuild this company, I want a stake in its future. David smiled for the first time since I'd known him. I think we can arrange that. The next Monday, I walked back into Neural Sync's offices for the first time in 3 weeks. The place felt different, quieter, more focused. Marcus's corner office was empty. Rebecca's desk had been cleared out. Sarah was in the conference room, leading a team meeting. She looked up when I entered and smiled. Everyone, Mark's back. I think you all know what that means. The room erupted in applause. Tom stood up and shook my hand. Good to have you back, man. We've got a lot of work to do. He was right. 3 weeks of system failures had left us with a massive technical debt. Half our clients were gone, and the ones who remained were nervous. We had maybe 2 months to prove that Neural Sync could deliver on its promises. But I wasn't worried. We had the right team, the right leadership, and the right technology. More importantly, we had the right values. 6 months later, Neural Sync hosted its first annual developer conference. The auditorium was packed with engineers, data scientists, and AI researchers from around the world. Sarah gave the opening keynote, talking about ethical AI and the responsibility that comes with building systems that shape human behavior. Then it was my turn. I stood at the podium, looking out at an audience that included several former colleagues from other companies, some Venture Max executives, and, sitting in the back row, Marcus Webb. Today, we're announcing the open-source release of Prism Core, I said. A foundational AI toolkit that any developer can use to build recommendation systems, all released under a permissive license that ensures it remains free and accessible. The audience erupted in applause. I noticed Marcus shifting uncomfortably in his seat. We're also launching the Neural Sync Foundation, which will provide grants and resources to researchers working on ethical AI development. Because the future of artificial intelligence shouldn't be controlled by a few powerful companies. It should be shaped by everyone. More applause. Marcus was checking his phone, probably reading the news coverage that was already going live. Finally, I want to talk about something personal. 6 months ago, I was fired from this company. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. But sometimes, the best thing that can happen to you is being forced to start over. I looked directly at Marcus. Sometimes, the people who try to destroy you end up giving you exactly what you need to succeed. The audience gave me a standing ovation. When I looked for Marcus in the back row, he was gone. Later that evening, I found myself on the roof of NeuralSync's building, looking out over Boston's skyline. The city lights stretched to the horizon, each one representing someone whose life might be touched by the technology we were building. Sarah joined me, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Different," I said. "Better. Like we're building something that matters again." "Any regrets?" I thought about that. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of technical challenges, business negotiations, and personal growth. I'd learned more about myself and what I valued than in all my previous years combined. "No regrets," I said. "Just lessons." We stood in comfortable silence, watching the city below. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably planning his next move, looking for another company to optimize and gut. Rebecca was likely updating her LinkedIn profile, searching for her next VP role. But that wasn't my problem anymore. My problem was building something beautiful, something ethical, something that would make the world a little bit better. Some people think revenge is about destruction, but I'd learned something different. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply being successful, being happy, and building something that lasts. The algorithm that had started as a graduate school project had become something bigger, not just a piece of code, but a foundation for an entire philosophy of how technology should serve humanity. And that, I realized, was worth more than any amount of money or corporate title. That's my story. 6 months ago, I was a fired engineer with a grudge. Today, I'm the CTO of a company that's changing how we think about artificial intelligence. The algorithm that nearly destroyed my career ended up saving it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just being better than the people who tried to tear you down. But that's a lesson for another day. This is Mark Teller, signing off.